Hi grade 7s, I'm here with Whitney's Kiss, chapter 7. Whitney had no idea that the next day would be the worst day of her life. In the morning she got ready for school and thought about what she would tell Lucky if she saw him on the way to school. Apologize for yesterday, she thought. Explain about having to see Mrs. Pillay and promise to come by this afternoon after school. She didn't see him on the way. She waited opposite his school for a few moments, but he wasn't there. Maybe he'll be there after school, she hoped. She found it hard to concentrate during class. Her mind kept drifting onto other things. She thought about Lucky and dreamt about visiting him. Then she thought about Mrs. Pillay again and everything she had said. She knew that she had some decisions to make, but she wanted to make them after she had been to visit Lucky. Just in case she decided not to be alone with him in the future. It was almost like eating one last chocolate before giving up sweets forever. Then her mind drifted to her father. He had been in so much pain the last few days. She did not like to go and visit him in the hospital because she couldn't bear to see him like that. She'd seen pictures of people starving in other African countries, and her father's figure reminded her of that. He was so thin, so weak. There were more sores now, and they never got better. The doctor had said that he could not talk or swallow because of the sores in his mouth and throat. He just lay there on a drip, suffering terribly. He'd only been in hospital for about 2 weeks, but to him it must have felt like an eternity. Whitney tried not to think about the pain and torture her father was enduring. It was too awful. Why couldn't they do something? Didn't doctors have medicines for everything? It made her sad and angry again, thinking about her father's undeserved suffering. The bell rang for first break and jolted Whitney out of her thoughts. "Come on, Whitney," Lindiwe said. "Stop dreaming and come sit with us for a change. Every break time you seem to have to go to Mrs. Pillay's class. Don't you get sick and tired of her classroom?" "Not really," Whitney answered. "We just talk. Mrs. Pillay is cool." "Just talk about what?" Lindiwe asked as they walked to their usual spot. "About stuff." "Like what kind of stuff?" "You know, just stuff. Guy and girl kind of stuff," Whitney said. Lindiwe was interested now. "Do you talk to her about Lucky?" she asked. "Not much. She talks to me about Lucky. She gives me advice and whatever," Whitney said. "Oh, that sounds dangerous. You know what teachers can be like. They expect you to live in the previous millennium. I'll bet she tells you not to have sex with Lucky until you're 50 or something," Lindiwe said. "Well, not until you get married anyway. Something about a lifelong partner. She says the best way to avoid AIDS is to never have sex except with one person, your husband." "See, that's ridiculous. Everybody does it, Whitney. My sister tells me that in high school, all the girls have done it. And if you're a virgin, then something is wrong with you. Maybe you're too ugly to attract a man, or whatever." "Oh, that's nonsense. You can't believe what your sister says anyway," Whitney said and sat down on the ground. "So what else does she talk to you about?" Lindiwe asked as she settled next to her friend. "Not much, really. I just talk about my father. She always listens to me," Whitney said. It's nice to have someone to talk to, I guess. You don't seem to want to talk to me about your father much. How's his cancer and everything?" her friend inquired. "It doesn't look good." Whitney looked down and then added, "I don't really want to talk about it." "See what I mean? I'm your friend, Whitney. I just want to help. Why don't you want to talk to me?" Whitney said nothing. She knew her friend meant well, but she was afraid Lindiwe might ask something she couldn't answer. She wanted to tell her friend the truth, but she didn't dare. Suddenly, a shadow fell over them. Whitney looked up and was startled to see the headmaster of the school standing next to them. "Good morning, Whitney," he said with a serious face. "Morning, sir," Whitney and Lindy were answered and glanced at each other. "Would you come with me for a minute, please, Whitney?" the headmaster said. "Yes, sir. Is something wrong, sir?" she asked hesitantly. The headmaster walked off without replying, and Whitney got up to follow him. Her mind started racing. Had she done something wrong? Was this about Lucky? Was it about her father? She felt a knot forming in her stomach. She tagged along to his office. Inside his office, the headmaster finally turned toward Whitney with a solemn face. "Your mother just phoned, Whitney. I'm afraid your father passed away this morning. I believe he had cancer," he said softly. Whitney put her hands over her mouth and then buried her whole face in her hands. "No!" she cried and started sobbing. "I'm very sorry," the headmaster said. She did not reply. She had known this day would come, but the news still came as a blow to her. All of a sudden, an overwhelming sense of loss swept over her. This was the worst day of her life. She sat down in the chair and wept. For a few minutes, the headmaster just stood next to her with a hand on her shoulder. He said nothing. He just let her cry. Eventually, Whitney stood up. Can I go home, please?" she asked. "Of course, Whitney. I told your mother I would drop you off right away. The two of you need each other right now," he said with sympathy. He had her bag brought to his office and then took her home in his old Mercedes. Right, and that brings us to the end of chapter 7. Keep your eyes peeled out for chapter 8.